The princess lay sprawled on her extravagant canopy bed, dramatically gasping as though death itself had personally RSVP'd to her chamber. Her lips trembled, eyes fluttered, and she emitted a sound that teetered dangerously between a moan and a sigh of agony. The healers, a trio of austere old men and one suspiciously perky woman, hovered awkwardly, grimacing behind their hands. "I swear," muttered the chief healer under his breath, "if she dies, I'll be accused of malpractice. If she lives, I'll be accused of sexual harassment." The younger healer snorted, adjusting his spectacles as he leaned closer. "Honestly, sir, she's doing it again. Last week, it was a fever. This week, it's apparently terminal pneumonia with a side of melodrama." The princess opened one eye and caught the hero standing in the doorway. He was tall, awkwardly handsome, and clearly out of his element, fumbling with the royal carpet and muttering apologies to invisible courtiers. She smiled, a wicked, knowing curl of the lips, and let out a soft, pained sigh that seemed carefully engineered to accentuate her curves. "Ah, finally," she breathed. "You've come to save me, or perhaps just to admire my suffering." Her tone was flirtatious, teasing, dangerous in the subtle way that made the healer squirm. The hero blushed, tripping over the hem of her luxurious carpet. He flailed, hand brushing past the chief healer's arm in a most inappropriate accidental touch. The healer's eyes widened. The young woman behind him stifled a laugh and muttered, "He's going to break something or someone." "You must help me," the princess gasped, rolling languidly onto her side in a motion that seemed simultaneously weak and seductive. "I am fading, dying, truly, utterly dying." She tilted her head just so, letting her long hair spill over the pillow and frame her face in the most dramatic lighting the room could offer. The hero swallowed nervously, caught between the absurdity of the moment and the undeniable pull of her performance. I will do everything I can," he stammered, forgetting his usual caution. His hand hovered awkwardly near her arm, unsure if he should touch her, bow, or faint outright. The healers exchanged glances, one leaning toward the other. "Do we intervene?" whispered the young healer. "Or do we let human folly unfold naturally? Because, frankly, this is far more entertaining than actual medicine." The princess noticed the exchange and smirked, her voice dropping to a sultry murmur. "Do not worry about them, hero. Their hands are skilled in herbs and salves, yes, but not in matters requiring a human touch." She arched an eyebrow, deliberately vague, leaving a delicious space for imagination. The hero's ears burned, his fingers twitching, the air thick with the kind of tension that might have been romantic in a different context, or utterly mortifying. He stumbled closer, knees knocking together, and muttered, I am not sure what I should do." She rolled her eyes, letting a teasing laugh escape, a sound part purr, part wheeze. "Oh, you will know when the moment is right, my dear hero. Or perhaps you will discover it by accident." The healers leaned in conspiratorially, whispering things they would never admit aloud. "Mark my words," said the chief healer. "He touches her wrong, and the entire court will be scandalized. Or worse, he might accidentally awaken something personal." The perky female healer stifled a snicker. "I mean, honestly, look at him. Clumsy, gawky, probably imagining things he shouldn't, and yet somehow, I suspect he might just succeed where magic fails." The young man's glasses fogged as he peered at the hero, caught between horror and fascination. "It's the human element," he whispered darkly. "Completely untrained, completely unpredictable and terrifying." The princess shifted, letting her leg dangle provocatively over the side of the bed. "Do you see, hero? You are my only hope," she breathed, voice dripping with sarcasm and sexual suggestion. "These men and women of science are limited by their procedures, their ridiculous rules, their morality. But you, human, foolish, impulsive you, might just do what they cannot." Her hand moved ever so slightly, grazing the edge of the blanket, a teasing invitation. The hero swallowed hard, fingers twitching, face burning red. He had never imagined saving someone could involve so much temptation. Suddenly, The princess let out a melodramatic faint, collapsing just enough to make it seem she'd lost all strength. The healers jumped into action, consulting their scrolls, murmuring about poultices and emergency incantations. The perky young healer whispered, barely containing laughter, "Or she's faking again." "My money's on her faking again." The chief healer groaned. "By the gods, if she's faking, I will retire immediately. Or perhaps take a sabbatical to avoid lawsuits or scandal." Meanwhile, the hero leaned closer, utterly confused, heart racing, torn between professional duty, personal fear, and an embarrassing, undeniable attraction. "Touch me," the princess whispered suddenly, eyes gleaming with mischief. "Or don't, but you might want to, if you wish to see miracles unfold." The hero froze, indecision written across his face. I don't know if He stopped as she let out a quiet, sultry laugh, the kind that made the entire room's air seem electric. "Yes," she said, voice honeyed and commanding. "Just a touch. Nothing more. Or perhaps more." Her grin widened, wicked and playful. The hero's hand twitched in panic and anticipation. The healers gasped audibly. "Heavens," muttered the chief healer. "If he touches her wrong, I don't want to imagine the lawsuits." Meanwhile, the princess had already dosed herself with a subtle tonic earlier, a prank potion designed to make her seem weak, moan in exaggerated ways, and flirt dangerously with anyone nearby. Every gasp, every tremble, every suggestive shiver was calculated to enthrall and confuse the court. The hero, blissfully unaware, edged closer, hand hovering like a nervous bird, caught between heroism and a very adult curiosity. "Just a touch," she whispered, "and everything might change." The tension was unbearable, electric, and distinctly adult, with every member of the royal court aware of the sexual subtext, whether they liked it or not. The perky healer whispered to the chief, barely suppressing laughter. "If he actually heals her, or if she recovers from sheer theatrics, he'll become a legend. The first human to accomplish a miracle by completely misunderstanding courtly procedures and flirting unintentionally." The chief healer nodded grimly. "And the court will gossip endlessly about the sexual subtext. Entire dynasties will wonder what exactly the hero's touch entails." Meanwhile, the princess winked at the hero, lips slightly parted, clearly enjoying every second of chaos she had orchestrated. The hero gulped, his fingers trembling, mind racing with what could happen, unaware that her exaggerated weakness and strategic tonic were creating a perfect storm. The entire room was thick with anticipation, sexual tension, and the promise of absurdly comedic outcomes. He was human, clumsy, and completely untrained, but perhaps that was exactly what the miracle required. The hero's hand hovered over the princess, trembling like a leaf in a storm. She let out a soft, suggestive sigh that made him blink in confusion and nervous anticipation. "Now," she murmured, voice dripping with mischief, "just a touch. Nothing more unless you dare." His fingers brushed hers accidentally, causing a jolt of electricity he could neither explain nor ignore. The princess gasped audibly, and the healers, watching, stiffened. One muttered, "If he survives this, it'll be a miracle of human foolishness." The other whispered, barely audibly, "Or sheer sexual incompetence." The touch, untrained and accidental, triggered the prank tonic she had secretly administered. Her eyes fluttered dramatically, her body arched in exaggerated weakness, and yet, beneath the theatrics, color returned to her cheeks. The hero blinked, horrified and amazed, unsure whether he had actually done something miraculous or if she was simply mocking him. The princess let out a small, triumphant laugh, barely audible but undeniably suggestive. "See," she teased, "miracles happen when one dares, or when one stumbles blindly over destiny." The healers recoiled slightly, faces pale with disbelief. "That's impossible," one whispered, adjusting his glasses nervously. "No human should know. It defies all rules of magic and medicine." The perky young healer leaned toward the chief, grinning. "Or she's laughing at us." Again. Dark humor laced their whispered conversation. If she keeps this up, the kingdom might collapse from scandal before we even finish writing the healing scrolls. The princess rolled lazily onto her side, watching the hero like a cat tracking a hapless mouse. Do you feel it? She purred. The warmth, the life, the potential? Every word was a double entendre, and the hero, cheeks flaming, could barely manage a nod. He felt like he had stumbled into an adult-themed riddle that he didn't know he was supposed to solve. I think so, he stammered. But was it me? Oh, my hero, she whispered, voice sultry and teasing. It might have been. Or perhaps it was destiny. Or perhaps my little tonic made you look impressive. Either way, the results are undeniable. Her hand brushed his in the most accidental way, and he jumped back, heart pounding, caught between panic and a confusing surge of adult excitement. The healers gasped audibly, one nearly dropping his medical scroll. Did that just happen? He muttered. The princess, ever the prankster, let her laughter echo softly, a sound part moan, part musical mischief. Oh, don't be so stiff, my hero. Humans are extraordinary creatures, especially untrained ones. You stumbled into a miracle and a very adult kind of chaos. She wiggled slightly, as if testing the effect of her tonic combined with his nervous energy. He shifted uneasily, trying not to touch her again, though she seemed intent on guiding him with the faintest brush of skin, her leg just so, her wrist grazing his arm, each movement a deliberate temptation. The adult comedy escalated as the court began to murmur, gossiping about the miraculous touch and misinterpreting the scenario entirely. Do you think he actually? Whispered one noblewoman, fanning herself and blushing. Another nobleman muttered under his breath, if this spreads, no one will be able to attend council meetings without imagining the hero in compromising positions. The princess snickered, clearly aware of every whispered observation. She rolled her eyes, teasing, they all think they understand, but they do not. Only you, or perhaps only we, truly grasp the miracle of human imperfection. The hero's nerves were fraying. Every slight motion from the princess, every hair fall, every brush of hand, felt like a trap set to test his composure. Her flirtation was relentless yet playful, a perfect storm of adult humor and romantic tension. I don't know what to do, he admitted, voice cracking slightly. I'm not trained, he stuttered, flustered beyond reason, entirely aware of the sexual undertones, entirely unaware of how the tonic exaggerated her reactions to his touch. Then do nothing, my hero, she murmured, voice low and sultry, and let the magic of your mere presence be enough. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, a glint that said she was fully aware of the absurd, erotic chaos she had orchestrated. Every gasp, every tremor of her body was a performance, and the hero was the unwitting audience and participant. The healers could only watch in horror and awe, scribbling notes furiously about the unprecedented phenomenon they could neither explain nor normalize. The princess, ever theatrical, arched backward in mock collapse, only to grab the hero's wrist with a surprisingly firm grip. See, she whispered, eyes half-lidded. Your touch brings life. Or perhaps it brings other things. The dark humor was palpable. The healers were silently cursing fate, wishing for a magical law to prevent human interference in royal matters. Meanwhile, the hero felt as though he were walking a tightrope strung between admiration, panic, and a slowly intensifying sexual comedy that no one dared speak of aloud. Every movement, every accidental brush of hand or shoulder, became a layered joke, sexual suggestion, and HFY miracle all in one. The princess giggled softly, whispering flirtatious taunts. You are better than I imagined, or perhaps worse, depending on your definition of heroic touch. The hero blushed furiously, tripping over his own feet in response, nearly colliding with a healer. Laughter erupted quietly around the room as the absurdity of the situation escalated. A mortal man, clumsy and inexperienced, accidentally performing miracles while navigating an adult comedy of sexual innuendo and romantic tension. By the time the princess finally allowed him to step back, she was fully upright, radiant, and entirely in control of the chaotic energy she had engineered. "Well," she purred, voice teasing, "you've done it. Life returns, chaos reigns, and yet somehow you've made it exciting." The healers exchanged glances of disbelief. "We need a sabbatical," one whispered. "Or perhaps counseling. Definitely counseling." The hero, still red-faced and trembling, could only nod, caught between the wonder of human capability, the absurdity of adult comedy, and the undeniable pull of the princess's charm. In that moment, it became clear. The tonic, the accidental touch, and the sheer unpredictability of human instinct had created a miracle unlike any the kingdom had ever seen. And the princess, ever mischievous, leaned close to whisper one final, sexually suggestive comment, leaving the hero blushing, the healers horrified, and the court whispering rumors that would persist for decades. The court had descended into predictable chaos, though not in any ordinary sense of royal disorder. The princess, fully recovered, or at least fully pretending, now orchestrated a series of pranks designed to test the hero's composure, the healer's patience, and the entire court's capacity for mortified amusement. She leaned lazily against a pillar, eyes glinting with mischief, while the hero hovered nearby, uncertain whether he should intervene, flee, or faint outright. Each movement she made seemed calculated to tease him, a hand brushing a chair, a foot curling under her gown, a laugh that was part genuine amusement, part erotic suggestion. The adult humor in the air was thick, pungent, and undeniably effective. The hero's attempts at heroism were continuously thwarted by her antics. He tried to present a healing herb to the princess, but she flicked it away with a sly smile, causing it to land on a nobleman's lap. The man yelped, jumped, and, in a series of increasingly absurd events, ended up with his robes disheveled and his dignity in tatters. The healers gasped, muttered darkly about human incompetence, and scribbled frantic notes about the impossibility of predicting such outcomes. "I've seen wars resolved with diplomacy," muttered the chief healer, "but never a kingdom destabilized by accidental eroticism." Meanwhile, the princess leaned close to the hero, whispering in his ear, voice low and teasing. "You see, my dear hero," she said, "human instinct is a dangerous thing, especially when combined with curiosity and hands untrained in courtly manners." Her words dripped with double meanings, and the hero's face burned crimson. He tried to pull away, only for her hand to lightly graze his, sending an involuntary shiver down his spine. Adult tension crackled between them, and the healers, standing nearby, could only shake their heads, silently debating whether to intervene or join the absurdity. The prank tonic she had administered earlier continued to heighten her performances. Every gasp, every exaggerated shiver, every fainting spell was now amplified, creating a chain reaction of absurd sexual comedy. The court nobles were caught off guard. One couple began whispering illicit theories about the hero's capabilities, another tripped over a rug while attempting to discreetly peek at the miracle, and a particularly scandal-prone advisor ended up with a handprint on his tunic that he could not plausibly explain. Laughter, blushes, and whispered innuendo became the new language of the court. The hero tried to focus, to maintain some semblance of propriety, but the combination of the princess's flirtations, the tonic's effects, and the sheer absurdity of adult courtly chaos made concentration impossible. At one point, he leaned over to study a noblewoman who had tripped over the same rug, only to find her legs tangled with his in a way that was embarrassingly compromising. The princess clapped softly, stifling a laugh, and murmured, "Such talent, hero. Truly, human touch knows no boundaries, or perhaps it knows too many." The healers groaned. Dark humor dripped from their muttered commentary. "If this spreads beyond the castle walls," one whispered, "every kingdom in the realm will require mandatory counseling before marriage." Romantic tension escalated as the hero stumbled repeatedly into situations he could neither prevent nor adequately explain. The princess continued to flirt openly, alternating between mock weakness and exaggerated seduction, while simultaneously orchestrating pranks on other courtiers. A spilled goblet of wine became a minor crisis when it landed on the lap of a visiting nobleman, who yelped in surprise and stumbled backward into the arms of an equally scandalized courtier, creating a human tangle of limbs, robes, and muffled moans. The adult humor was unmistakable: inadvertent erotic contact masked as chaos, flirtation disguised as accident. The healers, meanwhile, attempted to intervene with their own brand of ridiculousness. One suggested an improvised healing ritual that involved exaggerated poses, whispered incantations, and strategic touches, all designed to mimic the hero's miraculous method. It quickly devolved into sexual innuendo, with each healer unintentionally creating moments that were as scandalous as they were absurd. The princess rolled her eyes dramatically, whispering to the hero, "Do not attempt their methods. You are human. You are charming. And you, my hero, are wonderfully unpredictable." The hero could only nod, heart pounding, embarrassed and intrigued in equal measure. Amidst the chaos, the princess escalated the pranks. She swapped the tonic with a harmless but hilariously potent concoction that caused random blushes and involuntary giggles in the courtiers. One noblewoman suddenly began laughing at the hero's awkward attempts to regain composure, while a nearby lord whispered a flirtatious comment that accidentally entangled him in a mildly compromising position. The princess's laughter rang out, part moan, part musical mischief, delighting in the absurd chain reaction she had set in motion. The hero, though overwhelmed, began to realize the beauty of human unpredictability. Each accidental touch, each awkward movement, each misstep created outcomes that magic, ritual, and training could not replicate. The healers could only watch, horrified and fascinated, as a simple, clumsy human navigated a world of adult chaos, flirtation, and scandalous comedy with unintentional brilliance. The princess leaned close again, voice soft, seductive, and teasing. "You see, hero? You have already surpassed all expectations. Human instinct, awkward, messy, untrained, is a far greater force than any magic or spell." As the court continued to descend into a mixture of scandal, laughter, and adult hilarity, the hero found himself at the center of it all. He dodged misplaced hands, accidentally brushed against a noblewoman, and stumbled over invisible obstacles, all while maintaining the delicate balance of propriety and sexual comedy that the princess's antics demanded. She whispered encouragement, laughter, and subtle erotic suggestions at every turn, each one a deliberate test of his composure and wit. Finally, the princess allowed a brief moment of calm, just enough for the hero to catch his breath and for the court to recover from the latest chain of sexual chaos. He stood, red-faced and overwhelmed, while she leaned casually against a nearby table, arms crossed, eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well done, hero," she said, voice soft, playful, and vaguely suggestive. "You have survived my chaos, navigated the tonic, and remained mostly upright. You are human, you are clumsy, and yet, somehow, you are perfect." The healers, muttering darkly about resigning or writing anonymous reports to the king, could only shake their heads. The adult comedy, romantic tension, and HFY triumph were undeniable. Human imperfection, unpredictability, and sheer clumsy charm had once again prevailed over training, ritual, and courtly decorum. The princess, ever mischievous, whispered one last suggestion in his ear, leaving him flushed, breathless, and entirely aware that the chaos and the adult humor was far from over. The princess finally allowed herself to lean back, watching the hero fumble nervously in the aftermath of her orchestrated chaos. He had survived the tonic, the accidental brushes, and the courtly pranks without completely collapsing or fainting. She smiled, a slow, deliberate curl of her lips that made him flush from both admiration and embarrassment. "You see, hero," she murmured, voice soft, teasing, and tinged with erotic suggestion, "the true test of human ability isn't strength, knowledge, or even magic. It's surviving me and perhaps enjoying it a little too much. Her hand brushed lightly against his, deliberate enough to make him shiver, accidental enough to seem innocent. The healers, still attempting to appear professional, muttered darkly among themselves. I cannot believe this, one hissed. He actually thrived under her attentions. Another adjusted his spectacles, muttering, If the king knew, we'd all be executed, or worse, forced into counseling. Their whispered commentary only fueled the sexual comedy. The princess let out a soft laugh, more like a musical moan than humor, and leaned closer to the hero, who could barely meet her gaze without turning crimson. Do you feel it? She whispered. The exhilaration, the chaos, the unexpected delights of human touch. The hero swallowed, face heating, as the adult tension thickened. He realized the tonic had not only enhanced her theatrics, but amplified every flirtatious nuance, every suggestive glance, and every unintended erotic outcome. Her laughter danced around him, teasing, playful, and wickedly adult, as she leaned into the space between them, eyes sparkling with mischief. You've done it, she whispered, voice low, without even knowing how. You've healed, entertained, and perhaps tempted the court in ways no mortal should. The court, still recovering from the chaos of the day, whispered, giggled, and blushed. Rumors about the hero's miraculous touch spread faster than wildfire. Some nobles speculated with scandalized delight about his technique, others whispered suggestions about practicing it themselves, and a few discreetly leaned toward each other to exchange risque bets on what exactly he had done. The healers groaned, scribbling furiously, realizing that no record could capture the absurdly adult and erotic nature of the events without drawing severe consequences, or causing more laughter than credibility could bear. The princess reached out, catching his hand lightly, just enough to spark a jolt of electricity and an awkward blush. You know, she murmured, human touch is unpredictable, isn't it? Her voice dropped to a sultry whisper. One moment it heals, the next, it excites, amuses, and utterly confounds everyone nearby. The hero's throat went dry. He nodded, realizing that every step, every gesture, every accidental brush of skin had contributed to a perfectly orchestrated adult comedy. He had unwittingly navigated a world of erotic chaos, flirtation, and scandal, and somehow survived, and even thrived. The princess leaned closer, pressing lightly against him, not fully, but enough to make his pulse race and his mind whirl. You've shown remarkable resilience, she said, each word dripping with double meaning. Most mortals would have collapsed from embarrassment, excitement, or sheer incompetence. Yet you, my hero, remain standing. And more than that, you are somehow endearing. Her tone wavered teasingly between mockery and genuine praise, a perfect blend of adult humor and romantic tension. Healers tried one last intervention, suggesting a ceremonial gesture to seal the miracle without specifying what it involved. The hero, weary, red-faced, and flustered, simply shook his head. No, he muttered. Let the human method remain unspoiled. The princess smirked, clearly impressed by his combination of clumsiness and instinctual charm. Wise, she purred, and yet delightfully inadequate. Truly human. She leaned into him, whispering something scandalously playful about courtly life, making him blush hotter than a midsummer sun. The court, meanwhile, had settled into a new rhythm of scandalized amusement. Courtiers whispered, giggled, and exchanged sly glances, plotting their own pranks or romantic exploits inspired by the events they had witnessed. The adult comedy had reached full maturity, everyone simultaneously embarrassed, excited, and unsure whether to intervene or watch. The princess reveled in it, watching the hero navigate every absurd situation with his characteristic awkward brilliance. She guided him through the remaining formalities with whispered instructions and suggestive nudges. Every accidental touch became a lesson in human unpredictability, every blush a confirmation of adult humor, every tremor of laughter a validation of HFY triumph. She leaned in, voice low, playful, and full of double entendre. "You see, hero," she murmured, "life, healing, and chaos are far more enjoyable when human hands and minds are involved. Perhaps a little less practice than magic, but infinitely more exciting." The hero, despite embarrassment and exhaustion, realized something profound amidst the adult comedy. Humans, even flawed, clumsy humans, could create miracles that magic, ritual, and elite training could not. His heart raced, partly from adrenaline, partly from the princess's mischievous proximity, and partly from the absurd erotic undertones that colored every interaction. The tonic, her pranks, and his own instinctive clumsiness had combined to form a perfect storm of comedy, romance, and adult sexual humor. Finally, the princess straightened, laughing softly. "You've done it," she said, voice teasing and rich with suggestion. "You've healed me, survived the chaos, and, dare I say, provided the court with entertainment of the highest and naughtiest order." Her hand lingered on his arm, a teasing brush that left him flushed and aware of every possible implication. He swallowed hard, realizing that in this kingdom, human unpredictability was far superior to any spell, potion, or ritual. The healers, muttering darkly, realized that the story they would someday recount, if they dared, would involve a miraculous healing, a tonic-enhanced prank, a hero clumsy yet charming beyond belief, and a princess who had orchestrated every ridiculous, erotic detail with precision. Their notes were illegible from laughter and embarrassment. The court whispered, giggled, and imagined endlessly, solidifying the hero's status as both a miracle worker and a provocateur of scandalous comedy. As the hero stood, red-faced but triumphant, the princess leaned close one last time. Her voice was soft, sultry, and teasing, carrying all the adult humor, sexual suggestion, and romantic mischief of the day. "You've proven, hero, that human instinct is a force to be reckoned with. Untrained, clumsy, yet capable of miracles and other, far more enjoyable consequences." The hero's pulse raced, chest tight with embarrassment and excitement. He had survived pranks, tonic-induced theatrics, and flirtatious chaos, and somehow emerged as the unlikely champion of adult comedy, HFY heroism, and romantic intrigue. In that final moment, the kingdom realized something extraordinary. Humans, in all their messy, awkward, flirtatious glory, could create miracles that no magic, potion, or ritual could replicate. The princess laughed softly, a sound part moan, part musical mischief, as she watched her clumsy hero, now a legend in both miraculous healing and adult humor. The healers groaned, the court whispered endlessly, and the hero, for the first time, felt the thrill of human unpredictability, flawed, erotic, chaotic, and triumphantly superior.